Welcome to the February East Jersey Tea Party meeting. We're going to start with our prayer, and our Honorable Robert is going to come on up and assist us in that.
Let us pray. God of our Father, your mercies are forever. Father, we're here tonight, not for ourselves, but to bring the country back to where it was before, when we were all good and things were looking good for America. Now we're looked upon as nobody, and the Constitution isn't even put into effect. So Father God, what we do here tonight, please, let us do something to bring back America to the way it was. Thank you, Jesus. In the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Amen. Will you all rise, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Thank you, Robert. So, low turnout, -3 tonight with that wind chill factor. I did thank you for those who are emailing me and calling me. A few people are sick. Some are blessed and are down in Florida. But the rest of us staying strong and struggling through and out here now. And how many heard of Obama's pitiful speech today? Yeah. Hello, Bill. How you doing? Yeah, comparing modern day Christians to modern day Islamic terrorists. Yeah. Who heard it all? Because obviously I only got bits and pieces. Did anybody hear it in its entirety?
Yeah,
What did he say, Dwight?
well, he said that we're all on our high horse if we think that. He said we're all on our high horse if we think that we're not responsible for murder and death too.
Oh yeah,
Well, he
okay.
was going back.
1,000 years. Yeah.
It's our way back ancestors' fault for being so
Yeah.
wonderful.
We have to do everything we can, folks, to get some common sense, normal people back in that White House, really. I mean, that has to be our goal for 2016. But, what, Joe? Oh, I thought you were saying something. Hi, honey. Okay, so we'll start with the meeting because we have a really nice surprise tonight. But we're going to start with our housekeeping. And Steve, are you ready? I had to put you up first. Well, however you want to use it.
All right. Hello, good evening. This is not tall enough for me.
Hey, Shorty.
Hey, Shorty. That's better, right? Okay, so a couple things here. Get all the basics out of the way first. I mean, aside from the speech today, you all heard that State of the Union address. Anybody watch that?
No.
I didn't think so, but can you imagine? It sounded really great, though. I mean, what union was he talking about? They have jobs, they have an economy, they have small business. It sounds wonderful. I want to move there. I'm not entirely sure, but that was his State of the Union. It was pretty awesome. He had a couple of other things he did point out, though. Some of his things were in the news. Did you hear there was a recent poll? 1/3 of Americans are dissatisfied with how Obama is handling the ISIS problem. The other 2/3 didn't know he was even handling the ISIS problem. That's pretty tough. So after that, though, I don't know if you saw, he also is having a Supreme Court case coming up about Obamacare, March 4th. Okay, this is good news. It's got, well, of course, that is, of course, if he doesn't actually by executive order disband the Supreme Court between now and then.
Make sure Cuomo doesn't get involved.
Yeah. There was also, it was not really related to any of those things. They opened up a 220-year-old time capsule in Boston. Anybody see that? Yeah, they did. They opened up a 220-year-old time capsule in Boston. It was by Sam Adams and Ben Franklin. It had a bunch of really cool stuff in it. Had, some silver coins, copper coins, some papers of the day, and a pin-up poster of Betty White. So, boom. Thank you. I'll be here all the week. Right?
Wasn't expecting that.
Wasn't expecting it. Yeah. Hey,
It was good though.
keep you on your toes. So where did I put that somewhere? Well, we'll get over the finances. The finances first, right? The big business. Our finances at this point are $528.13, which is kind of a little bit down from last year. We do have some upcoming bills. Our insurance will be due next month. So one of those things, unlike the leftists, I'm not going to tax you and charge you, but there's this neat little book out here. And while I totally know that we are in no way with the rhinos and other losers in charge in Congress going to actually try to impeach the individual at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But if you guys have friends, neighbors, family members that don't really believe the nonsense, or you have a hard time remembering the facts about all of the usurpations of law, this is a great little book put out by Grassfire. I have 8 of them here. I'm going to donate them to the group, and if anybody wants to donate some money, like $4 or $5 for a book, I have 8 of them. You can stick that in the pot. I'll have somebody collect that later on. So that's just for your own knowledge. Last month we were going to talk about history a little bit, and we just got overrun with some time. Does anybody know what was a significant date for December and January? There was this kind of important event that happened 70 years ago last month. Anybody know?
I'm gonna go with Battle of the Bulge.
Ooh, the Battle of the Bulge. It was actually the Battle of the Bulge. So they were in the newspapers known as the beleaguered bastards of Bastogne. And those poor guys were basically going at it in this little tiny place known as Bastogne, which nobody had ever heard of. The Germans knew it as Road Octopus, because it had 7 roads that came into this little tiny hub, this hamlet of nothing. But if you controlled that road or that town, you controlled the 7 roads in and out, and that would go east and west, and they'd be able to run all their equipment and push another episode forward. And they were going to push back at the Allies after the invasion of Normandy. This went on for quite some time, and of course, the Wizards of Smart on our side, the British and the Americans, all thought, no way Hitler can do an offensive. The war's going to be over. It's already December. They were already, counting their chickens before they're hatched, and they were assured that by New Year's Day the war would be over. Little did they know that, Hitler was actually marching and setting all of his people. One of the things of the reasons that was allowed to happen was because there was radio silence, and they didn't need to have radio because Germany had not been bombed up until that point like France and the rest of them, so they still had their telephones. So in order to keep a secret, they could just pick up the phone and call each other and say, hey, how you doing? This is what's going on. And they did, and they used that. And there were some things that went out, and most of us didn't believe it. And of course, there was this little guy, most of you might have known him, George Patton. And so he kind of said, I'm not buying this, and sent some people out there and, did some wonders. If you want to read or hear a little bit about the story, most of you guys know there's this little book series out there by Bill O'Reilly. There's one called Killing Patton, and a lot of that is in there. It's actually pretty good, so you can read that if you want to, and that'll give you some more information. This month, we are going to be celebrating Black History Month. Black History Month, well, you may think, okay, yeah, there's several reasons behind that. We are going to be showing a movie and having some discussion at the Jackson Library on Wednesday, February 25th. So hopefully most of you can make it. Bring some friends, bring some family. I guarantee you will learn some things that you have never heard before. History did start before Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, so there were actually Black Americans that did great things, and most of them don't know anything about it. So we will introduce you to some of that. Of course, do you know why they start bringing up Black History Month? Why is it February? How convenient. Why is it February? Anybody know why it's February? It's the shortest month of the year? No, it's not racist. Gosh. What's that? Lincoln's birthday. Well, Lincoln freed the slaves. Which, why would that doesn't really matter, does it? Because I mean, you know.
Because he was a Republican.
No, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, he's got that going for him. But if we make Black History Month February, what a simple little idea. The leftists have continually dictated to us for over 100 years. We're going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and nobody's going to notice.
Well, I know.
What birthday happens in February?
George Washington.
Lincoln, Washington. Anybody else? 3 of our greatest presidents. Obama, knew. We don't know where or when he was born, really. There's this other little guy, Reinaldus Magnus. We know him as our 40th president, Mr. Ronald Reagan. So 3 of the greatest presidents in this country's history happen to be in February. And if we can just, I don't know, generically call it President's Day.
Tomorrow's his birthday.
Yeah, but is I don't know, Washington more important really than William Henry Harrison? We'll just call it President's Day. We don't need to celebrate Washington's birthday. We don't need to celebrate Lincoln anymore. We don't need all those days off except for government workers. Sorry guys, you guys get 2, 3, 4 holidays out of it. But the other guys, what do you get? You get 1 day, President's Day. You're all lumped together. Doesn't matter how good of a president you were. It doesn't matter how long you served. It doesn't matter if you can tell us anything about it. I mean, you know, can anybody even here name all 57 states? Can anybody?
Obama could.
I'm struggling. I'm pretty good with history, a little bit with the geography, but I've been to 49 of the 57 states.
You're missing out.
I'm missing out. I'm still got those 8 to go.
Which one did you miss? New Jersey?
New Jersey, I'm missing some of it, yeah. I'm missing Alaska and the other 7 that I can't find. But you know, the 43 presidents that are out there, we had some great ones. And one of the things that was always important about those presidents, up until a certain point, was one little thing we expected from our presidents. Didn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Whig, Federalist. We expected character.
We expect to put the country first.
Putting the country first, yeah, but I mean, you know, they had their own agendas, they had different things that were going on, but we expected character. And that kind of changed the ways back, right? There was a guy not too long ago, most of us should remember, and he stood there, and he was on national TV talking about, you know, we should talk about character, because character matters. But it kept getting swept under the rug. We got saxophone playing on Arsenio Hall, if anybody remembers who that is. You got talk about boxers and trailer trash and several other, I don't know, assumed flings and dalliances, but that was okay. That was a badge of honor because, you know, we had other great Democrat presidents that had done the same thing. FDR and his dalliances, JFK, everybody with little initials. So Slick Willie was able to get away with it, and that was cool. And now character doesn't matter, and that's what we're stuck with today. So, you know, you got to figure though, these presidents and all of our politicians that we're trying to hold accountable, where does this character come from? We talk about it all the time. The character of these men, they're not going ahead and saying, hey, I'm a sleazeball, and therefore the country's going to follow me into the tubes, okay? This president is not why we're in the position where we are today. Character of these men, slacking, lacking, whatever it is, these men were appointed after the fact. Culture doesn't follow politics. Politics follows the culture. So if we want to change things, we need to change the culture, and you need to start at the grassroots. You need to do it at home, and you need to hold these people accountable, okay? So there were several different people out there, lots of different good presidents, but they all had character in mind. Does anybody know who our 25th president is? Without Google, no Googling on any phones. 25. Anybody? Right around the turn of the 20th century. Anybody? He was one of the victims of this little thing called Tecumseh's curse. Anybody know what that is? Anybody that was elected in the year ending in 0 would die or be assassinated in office. Does that help you at all now? Oh, we need work on our history. There's a gentleman that was born in Ohio, and his name was William Mckinley. William Mckinley was born and raised in Ohio, brought up in the Methodist faith. His mother prayed over and over that he was going to grow up and become a Methodist preacher. That did not happen. God had other things in mind for him. And there was this little war between the states thing that kind of got brought up, and at 18 he joined the military and ran off with the Ohio regiments. His commanding officer was another president. He was a buddy with another president before him. So we had Lincoln, and then he died, right? That was part of the Tecumseh thing. And then what happened? We had Andrew Johnson, and he was nobody. And the next guy was Grant, and then the next guy was Rutherford B. Hayes. He was the commanding officer for McKinley. And McKinley was, in time of office, he was elected twice. During that time frame, he was famous for a few simple things. There was the Gold Standard Act, was out there at that time. We had this little Spanish-American War thing going on, the sinking of the Maine. Remember the Maine? If anybody remembers that. But this particular president was known for a couple little small things. If nobody else really remembers, we forget about these guys, right? So McKinley was the first one to ride in an automobile when he was president. Unfortunately, it was after he was shot. He rode in an electric ambulance. Not too good. He was the first one to actually make telephone calls for his campaign. So he was the first one to use the telephone in that way. His wife, who was basically an invalid, she had been sick, but dedicated, again, man of character. He lived up to his vows, wasn't out there running around having affairs, and he cared for his wife up until the time he died, and she was no longer able to care for himself. He was the first president in between Andrew Johnson and Woodrow Wilson that didn't have facial hair, because all the rest of them had these big beards, if you look back and you see it all. Does anybody know McKinley was actually on money? Anybody remember what money he was on? Probably most of us have never seen it before. It's a $500 bill. Okay, he was on the $500 bill. Of course, that was last printed in 1934, and most of us weren't around then either. He was also the first president to be having his inauguration caught on film. So he was the first one filmed. And of course, when we go back and forth, we talk about his character, and his character goes back to his Methodist faith, and he talked about a couple different things. But when he was shot, he was known to wear a carnation. He wore it in his lapel all the time. It was his good luck charm. So everywhere he went, he was having this good luck charm. And he was at a exposition. It was known as the Pan American Exposition. And while he was there greeting people, a little girl came up to him, and he was going to greet her, and he took the carnation, his good luck charm, out of his lapel and gave it to her. Minutes later, he was shot in the chest. And he, at that point, the Secret Service, a bunch of guys apprehended the guy, jumped all over him, and at that point, he showed his character. Because as the assassin is laying there being beaten and pummeled by the crowd, he says to them, "Boys, don't let them hurt him." He forgave the guy that shot him, and basically pardoned him before he passed away. He died 8 days later. But this is the kind of man that he was. When he was inaugurated, he put his hand on his Bible, on Solomon's Prayer and Chronicles, and says, "Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this thy people that is so great?" Okay, he put his faith in God, and all the way through, he let that character shine out. We need to get men back and forth like that. That's one of the things the leftists don't do. But unfortunately, our side has one little problem. We like to talk about the character, and we like to talk about the duplicity of the left, and we talk about how they are two-faced. But one of the things they don't do is they don't eat their own. So our side, we are going to be talking about a bunch of people in the coming months here for upcoming elections, and we're going to have, a bunch of primaries. Some of these guys are good, some of these guys are bad, some of them are rhinos. But the bottom line is, we need to follow Reagan's 11th commandment. And that is, you do not talk about fellow Republicans. Do not dishonor your party and your people. So we need to stick together and make sure that we're following that 11th commandment and support these men of character. And if they're not our side, that's fine. We don't have to agree with them. We just don't vote them in. So that's our lesson today on character.
So then, Steve, is it okay if I repeat what I heard today? I think it was Dennis Prager, I forget, I was driving, told us about Jeb Bush. Did you hear Jeb Bush said he'd like to emulate Lyndon B. Johnson?
Oh my God.
Is it okay if I tell people that, Steve?
Go ahead.
So, I agree, but we need to be careful as to who we put into power. I don't want somebody who thinks LBJ is a good guy. Really. So, okay, thank you, Steve. Robert's going to come up and give us very brief what's happening with our events. Thanks, Robert.
Hello, everybody. Jason couldn't make it. He's been deported to Arizona to go visit his family. Come on, people. He's a little sensitive. Yeah, so when he sees the video, you could all clap that he was deported to Arizona. Come on, let's. First thing, March 1st, we have our St. Patrick's Day Parade we're going to be doing again. If you're interested in participating in that event, unless the weather is extremely cold, last year was a little drizzly, but not that bad out, and we still did it and had a great time. Unfortunately, because of the weather, there weren't that many people watching the parade on the side of the route, and there was a lot of dropouts. But we're going to be doing that again. And Jason has made arrangements for our first baseball game for May 9th. At 4:05 p.m. at the Blue Claw Stadium. He will talk more about that at next month's meeting. And the one other thing I got here, I saw on Facebook, and today Rich Pizzullo had called me to let me know about this. Joe's going to be getting in touch with him. He wants to come and speak to the group about the Convention of States. There's a meeting at the end of the month of February, 27th, in Princeton. It starts at 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. They're going to be talking in favor of the Convention of States. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, I will be sending out an email on all these 3 events that I just mentioned, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Okay, so the other day I took some time and I went into Lowell's movie theater and was so humbled to watch The American Sniper. I don't know, if you haven't seen that movie, you need to go see that movie. I have seen Chris Kyle on many programs prior to his murder, which, by the way, I have been saying this to a couple of people for a while now. How come we never hear about the guy who murdered him? Well, Alan West put out last week or yesterday, the guy who murdered Chris Kyle might be a Muslim, but they're not talking about that. And I've been saying that from day one. Anyway, it was an awesome movie. As you've probably heard from anybody who had gone to see it, silence throughout the movie. You did not hear a whisper. You did hear a lot of sniffling. And at the end of the movie, you watch the funeral procession of cars upon cars upon cars upon cars of mourners going to give honor to Chris Kyle. So of course, you get up and you're feeling humbled, very humbled. I turn around, and I turn around, and who do I look at is Robert and his lovely wife, Ray. And right away, my heart lifted, just to see 2 people that I love so dearly, who I know are American patriots. We wait, people are filing out, and Robert and Ray can attest to this, people sobbing, crying, a lot of people just standing there. I really think people were just maybe in shock with what they witnessed. So Robert pulls me and Ray aside, and he proceeds to tell me of his own endeavor that he went through when he fought in the Korean War. And I asked Robert if he would give us the honor to come up here today and tell us all about it, and he agreed. So, Robert, please come on up.
I'm Robert. Are there any Marines in here? None? Boy, that's good. Okay. when we were at the movies, I didn't see Joe Ellen in front of me until the end of the movie. And as she stated, we were quiet throughout the entire movie. And you could hear sniffling every so often. And at the end of the movie, when you saw the procession going to the cemetery, I'm kind of an old guy. I haven't cried in a long time, but I surely cried that day. It was heartbreaking to see that. And I hope all Americans go out to see it, because that is us. Now, when I spoke to Joe Ellen, there may be a misunderstanding, because when I was in Korea, I don't think I did anything except catch people. What I'm going to talk about is what happened in 1977 at Marine Corps Base 29 Palms in California. It's 900 square miles in the Mojave Desert. Now, when I was there, they just finished building an airfield. It was 5,000 feet long. It had taxiways. It had connecting areas where you could get on from one side to the other. I was a gunnery sergeant at the time, and I was in charge, the non-commissioned officer in charge of the crash crew. Now, the Marine Corps does something that other services don't do. When the control tower announces that the field is open, we send a crash truck out with a crew on it to midfield. And they stay there all day until it's announced that the field's closed. Now, the troops, they change shifts every 2 hours, but that truck stays there, and there's men there at all times. This particular day, it was on the 9th of August, 1977. If the matting is metal, usually it's 120 degrees. And this particular day, my men had checked all the vehicles out, and they were doing all minor things. And I had a bucket, 2 buckets. One I sat on, one I had in front of me with my clothes in it so I could wash them. I had on sneakers and shorts. Now, I was facing the desert, and in the desert you can see for miles and miles and miles. I could see the tanks rolling, I could see the men behind it, I could see the aircraft flying over, dropping ammunition and so forth on the desert. Now, I'm sitting there washing my clothes, watching the maneuvers, and all of a sudden I hear a commotion behind me. I turn around and I looked, and there's a truck coming into our compound, and it's on fire. The men jumped out of it and they run away. So I jumped up and I hollered to my men, suit up, get the truck going, and put the fire out. And in the meantime, I ran over to the truck and got a 50-pound fire extinguisher. I ran over to the truck. Now the truck is burning from the front to the back underneath. It was a refueling truck. I got underneath it and I put the fire out from the front to the back. I came out and I told the men, wash it down, make sure the fire's out. I put the extinguisher down, I went back to my washing. I forgot about what had happened. Unbeknownst to me, the men that were with me that day all wrote what happened. They turned it over to the commanding officer. He in turn sent it to Washington, D.C. And on April of 78, I received the call that I had received a commendation from the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and I will read it to you. Certificate of Commendation. The Commandant of the Marine Corps takes pleasure in commending Gunnery Sergeant Robert Cartwright, United States Marine Corps, for outstanding for outstanding achievement while serving at Marine Corps Base 29 Palms on 6 August 1977. Upon learning that a diesel refueling truck had caught fire on the airstrip, Gunnery Sergeant Cartwright picked up a chemical fire extinguisher and, without regard for his own safety and fully aware of personal dangers involved, unhesitantly ran to the burning truck, crawled underneath it, and put out the fire. His courageous and prompt actions in the face of great personal risk, avoiding a massive explosion and fire that could have cost numerous lives and caused considerable damage. Gunnery Sergeant Cartwright's presence of mind, striking courage, and coolness and reflection brings upon great credit upon himself and the United States Marine Corps. I did not know it at the time that when I got this commendation, I was supposed to get a medal, but I didn't know anything about it. On the 19th of January, 2015, I received a package from FedEx. 2019, Martin Luther King Day, we didn't have mail, so FedEx dropped the package off. I picked up the package and I put it on the counter in the kitchen. I finished my breakfast, I read the paper, I did a few other things, and then I remembered I had a package out there. So I went out to the package and I picked it up, and inside was a note. It said, Robert Cartwright has my serial number, December the 10th, 2014. A review of the records indicated entitlement to the following awards. Awards are enclosed. Now the first thing is the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. There isn't a man in the Marine Corps does not want that medal over anything else. According to this, you've heard of the Medal of Honor. I'm number 6 down over all the 82 medals that are there. And let me see if I can't read what it says about that particular medal. Now, I didn't come up here to do this because I don't like accolades on myself. I was tending to keep it all secret, but sometimes it doesn't work that way.
It's nice to know who we have among us, though.
Yes, it is.
It says here, heroism, and involving actual conflict with a, not involving actual conflict with an armed member of the opposite side. It says, for heroism that involves the voluntary risk of life under conditions other than those conflict with an opposing armed force. The United States Marine Corps Medal is worn after the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. The medal is bronze, octagon with an eagle perched with a fouled anchor. Beneath the anchor is the globe, and below that heroism. Now, I looked it up in the book. Like I say, it is 6 below the Medal of Honor. I did not know that. I haven't told too many people about this because I don't like it, but now you know it. Since then, I joined the Marine Corps in 1950 when the Korean War started. I went to Korea for 14 months and I came home, and I got married, and then I got discharged, and I was out for a short period of time, and I missed the Corps. So I joined the reserve. I stayed in the reserve until 1990. I had 34 years, 9 months, and 26 days. And I was retired. I held the rank structure. My pay was that of a major. When I received the commendation, I was called into the office and told them that I was being promoted to a master sergeant. Before I had a chance to put the stripes on, I was called back into the office, told them, tell your wife and children and bring them to the next grouping that we had at the base, which I did. They gave me a commission and made me the OIC of the crash crew, of which I had when I got discharged. Since then, I studied for my preacher's license through the Methodist Church. I have the right to preach the gospel. My wife and I both took a course on counseling. It took 2 years for us to get through it. We are both certified counselors. I joined the United States Air Force Auxiliary, and I teach Civil Air Patrol cadets honesty, morals, and everything else until the government steps in and tells me I cannot use the word Jesus Christ and I can't talk about the Bible to my troops. That is something that puzzles me to the end. I'm a chaplain for the Lakewood Police Department. I'm a facilitator for the post-traumatic syndromes. Well, a whole bunch of other stuff that I've done in my life that I just do it because I want it and I love Christ. And thank you for everything.
Thank you for being here.
And that's what it's all about, people. People like Robert and his beautiful wife, Ray. Thank you both. And by the way, Robert told me that he was actually leaving that movie theater to go give counseling. Yep, go ahead, Robert.
Pass it on that it took 38 years to get that medal.
It took 38 years. Yeah. Thank you again, Robert. What a treat. Okay. Joe. Joe's going to come up and introduce our next speaker. Nick and Dwight inspiring. We have a new guest, Jim Bluish brought him, George Shuck, who's going to come up and give us a prelude. Next month I invited him. He's going to talk a little bit about how we, the people, can bring down Common Core. So really great speakers tonight. We also had the National Right to Life March in DC. 600,000 people showed up. But did you hear about that on the news? 600,000. That's awesome. So, hey, how about Brian Williams? Come on, you're all shocked, aren't you?
You know, he interviewed Amelia Earhart. He actually flew with her.
Did he really? Okay. Hey,
Everything she knows.
before George comes up, Steve's going to walk around with our little bucket here. Whatever you can donate, obviously we appreciate everything you give us. So thank you. So George, you want to come on up, hon? Also, Neil's committee met today. We're getting started. We are determined. We are going down to DC and talk to our legislators about the illegal immigration problem that needs to be confronted. So thank you, Neil. If you want to come up after George.
Hey, George.
I'll just take up a minute of your time. I'm not going to say too much about Common Core today. I don't know how many of you know about Common Core. It's a program that will dumb down our children, take the education away from the teachers in this state, and then put our education in the federal government's hands, not in the school hands. So next month, I'd like to come out and make a presentation on that. I'd like to say one other thing while you're up here about the Second Amendment. Our law enforcement agencies, all our congressmen, senators in the state of New Jersey, they all swore allegiance to uphold the Constitution. They're in violation of not upholding the Constitution right now. Thank you.
See you next fall.
Yep.
Thanks, George. We look forward to hearing your presentation next month. Neil? We're doing very well with the time, folks. And if anybody else wants to come on up, we're doing well.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Great program today, huh?
Yes, very good.
Well, I'm heading the Immigration Committee, and we all know the issues with immigration. The Immigration Committee, for me, ties into my bigger picture. I think the most pressing issue facing America is the collapse of our economy. And that's going to happen, unfortunately, in my opinion, very soon. And the immigration issue ties into it because the illegal immigrants are given full benefits when they get here, and who can afford that? We can't afford that. We're already $18 trillion in debt with $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities. So the immigration issue really should never have happened. We should have had a common sense immigration policy, because immigrants are very important to the lifeblood of our country as long as it's done legally. And our politicians really messed it up. And it's been going on for years and years and years. And for me, when I look at it, it's just common sense. You have a policy, you make a good policy, you take care of people, get the immigrants into the country, do it legally, and you have to, of course, protect the border. I mean, that's just common sense. I mean, everything we do now, there's no common sense. So anyway, hopefully we'll impact the Congress people, and maybe we could get in front of them and tell them what we feel a common sense immigration policy should comprise. Thank you. Well, we're open for any more team members if you want. Like I said, the vision we have is that we eventually want to meet with our local congressman, and then eventually go to Washington, D.C. and meet with Congressman Boehner. You know, they meet all sorts of people, a lot of special interest groups, so why don't they meet with the people? Remember, Lincoln used to walk around the White House and people used to just appear and he used to talk to them. So they work for us, we don't work for them.
Are you getting any information or assistance from FAIR?
Come again?
Are you getting any assistance or information from FAIR?
Not at the moment because we're formulating the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, unless anybody else, Dan?
We have one person here who spoke at the Parcc meeting the other day, gave testimony. Kathy Fulton, big hand.
Come on up. Do you want to speak, Kathy?
Does everybody understand what the Parcc testing is? Okay, we are substituting the New Jersey ASS test in New Jersey over to Parcc. And this is mandated from Common Core. Common Core and Parcc are intertwined here. 45 states signed up for Common Core for Race to the Top money. And that happened in 2010, and it was submitted to the states, and in November, and they had to tell the federal government by January if they want to go in or not. And if they did, then Common Core takes over everything, and they're changing also the testing for it, the standardized testing. And what we have now is they're linking the two, how well the Common Core is teaching our kids, and then they're linking it to the Parcc Testing instead of New Jersey Ask. The Parcc Testing has never been validated, meaning that in education you need to give children a lot of tests to see if it works, to see what's more effective, what's the best kind of testing for it, and it takes several years to do that. And they do studies, and they compare what the grades are, and how to make the test, the questions. This was never done with Parcc Testing. 25 states decided to go into the Parcc Testing, and the company behind it, it's all corporatism, it's all crony capitalism, is run by Pearson. Pearson is a British company who owns 80% of all the educational textbooks, all the publishing company in the United States. They, in Canada, it's 100% for all the educational books. And during this time, they've been buying them up over the years, Pearson and Mifflin, you know, these publishing companies you probably had your kids seeing in their textbooks. They never changed the name over to Pearson. So it looks like we have all these educational publishing companies, but it's Pearson. And they're controlling everything, and they're changing what's in these textbooks. And they're linked with, Pearson is linked with these 25 states who decided to do the Parcc Testing instead of New Jersey Ask. In this state, every state has their own name for the standardized testing. So New Jersey went into this for 25 states doing it, plus DC. We're down to 10 states in the Parcc, because all these other states out of 25 saw how bad it was, they pulled out. Of course, Christie wants Parcc because it makes him look good because they're getting all this money in from the government, and he wants to run for president, so it makes him look good to have this. Yeah, it's all political. It drives me crazy. Oh my God. And but the Parcc test hasn't been validated. It starts out of 3rd grade to 11th grade that these kids have to take it. It's going to be administered 2 times, one in March and one in April. March and I think it's May. 2 times. It's going to be like 6 to 8 hours for these kids to be tested. Everything is going to be on the computer. Kids in 3rd grade, you know, the argument there is they're on the computer doing it, which is a lot of kids in 3rd grade, they can't type effectively. I was a typing teacher. The dexterity for kids to actually type at that age, they can't do it. But then the other side's saying, well, these kids, they're 3 years old, they're on their iPods and on their phone and everything, but that's different when it comes to taking a test and you're in a time setting, and it's very stressful for these kids to take. They have been inundated for these past few years they're teaching to the test. The teachers are teaching to this test. And every day the kids are coming home, they're doing these practice tests, the homework from the Common Core, these kids are vomiting, they have anxiety, these 3rd graders they're just crying their eyes out all the time, and everything between the Common Core and Parcc are linked together. Now this test also with the pull down menus, they have to do like even in high school, like for if they wanted protractors or special calculators, like for algebra 2, that's also online. And a lot of the questions also are very confusing. There's going to be in Ocean County College, I think it's next week, you can go and take a Parcc test. You can also do it online. If you look up online, you just Google it, that you can take a Parcc test and just try it out. The questions, they have the multiple choice answers, but there could be 2 or 3 answers that could make sense that it could be correct. But they decide which one is the correct one, and parents are like, they've tried it and they can't even do it. Lots of math teachers have done some of this math and they can't even figure out the problems. And that's what's so scary about this test. It's like they're doing it on purpose. And it's not, the answers are not cut and dry on this test. What other thing that, all right, I'm trying to think what else on the, not validated. Data mining. That is a big scary thing on this. What is going on here is they're taking information from the kids on here and they're documenting all the stats of the parents, single family, what religion, it's everything they're going to take on there. It's down the line eventually, all the crazy questions they're going to have, but this is going to follow the kid from 3rd grade up until college, into the workforce. That's what they want to do. So all this information from Parcc, another company is doing the data mining for it, and this will go to them on the job, so all this information will be available to when they go for their job. For the employer will look at that. Let's say a kid had a problem in 4th grade for discipline and something crazy happened to him. That's still on there. That's none of their business. If the kid has a psychological problem, if they went for help or for a guidance counselor, going for therapy, that's going to be on there. That's none of their business. And that's what's going on here with Common Core. Huge grassroots effort going on in the state of New Jersey here. And last Thursday, there was like 200 parents, teachers there that testified in front of the State Department of Education. Director Ejtp is he's the head of the State Board of Education, and he was there, and there's a panel of 9 people on it. There was 5 of him and 4 women were there. And they listened to testimony. It started at 6, it was over at 12. There was 64 people who got up and testified. You gave 5 minutes to talk about it and complain about everything. Well, it was complaining, they were shouting, just showing everything that is wrong in this test. And then he's just there, just writing away and crossing off the next person, just get to the next one. So it's a dog and pony show. They're doing this whole thing. It's not going to go anywhere. It's all political. It's hopefully though, what we're trying to do is for the kids can refuse the test. You hear opt out and you hear refuse the test. You can't technically the legal word for opt out you can't use has to be refuse the test. It's the way they grade it, the way they record it when the kid takes the test. So the grassroots effort, it's all moms that are doing this. We're all over Facebook, getting together, and all these women were here last Thursday night doing it. And what we're trying to do is to make it from the state to allow the kids to refuse the test. I live in Jackson, and I asked the superintendent there, and he says, yes, the kids, I'll honor it. I'll respect the fact that the kids can refuse the test, but they have to stay in the classroom. That's another thing that we're trying to fight, because they shouldn't be in the classroom while the other kids are taking the test. It's intimidating to that kid, and it's disruptive to the other kids. It should be in a setting outside the classroom. But I feel good that at least it's, in our district, at least he's accepting that. So last night I started a Facebook page called Jackson Cares About Schools. And a lot of towns also have Facebook pages too, and maybe a local town has it. And it's just a place for everybody to ask questions and to learn more about Common Core. A big one also is opt out of standardized tests in New Jersey. That's a really good Facebook page. And Save Our Schools New Jersey is another excellent website to learn all about this. Wow. Yeah, really.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
If they're not allowing the kids to go out of the class and they have to sit there, why not have the parents go up after they know the test started after an hour or two and take them out of the school for the day?
Then they're recorded that they're absent, and you don't want that.
They already took their attendance already. It's the personal matter, you got to take them out.
No, we're trying to do. They're trying to do it in, a way that for all the kids, like not for, just for everything to be the same, not like for one person to pull
So
out.
even if it's an absence, you're still making a statement by taking all the kids out of school because they see that you're fed up with it. You're making
Right, but if you pull the kids out of school, they're absent, then they'll record it differently for the kid, and that'll go against them for not taking the test. It's better for the kid to show up. The parent has to send in a letter of refusing to take the Parcc, and it has to be on record with the principal, and also really you should send it also to the superintendent's office too. And then the kids, they don't have to take the test. There's a bill coming up this week from the legislature to try and make it that we have the right, the parents have the right to refuse the kids, and that's the next step, what they're doing now. Hopefully that'll pass and that will resolve a lot of this.
After you gave that presentation, you really don't need me back.
I'm sorry.
You did
Good?
a pretty good job. Let me ask you this. Well, I'm fighting with parents for, get out to the school board meeting, go to your township meetings, ask them to send the letter. They're gonna say, it's above my pay grade. We can get them to send the letter. We gotta get parents to hit back. You can't
Parents
get
don't
them.
show up at
Are you a
the
teacher
meetings.
by any chance?
I was a teacher, yeah.
All right. Our president of our school in Tom's River, she's against it, but she says, I cannot speak up at
Right,
the
right. I think my district too, they can't. Their superintendents, their hands are tied.
But if
They-
we can get all the teachers, what are they gonna do, fire them all?
The teachers are afraid to speak up because they're afraid they're gonna lose their jobs. And that's what's,
Well, like you
but,
said, they're gonna fire every teacher.
right, I know.
Well, they're gonna lose their job anyway, because they're gonna be robots sitting in that class,
Right.
reading out of a book, that's it.
Listen, I have children in school. I have someone in school. My child is in second grade, and I have had some of his teachers say to me, I would like to teach them this method of mathematics that we used to have. But I was told that if I teach that and I don't teach according to Common Core, I will lose my job.
Yes.
If you have a complaint, go to the superintendent. They
What?
physically tell you in the classroom that they are being threatened with their jobs and their livelihood. They have families they have to take care of, and their hands are tied. If they
That's
show
what's
up
making it
to
scary,
saying
right.
anything- And another thing to piggyback with the psychological part, they actually no longer have the ability to handle children who are a little more hyperactive. We have this ADHD epidemic that they speak about, but yet when you go into a classroom and you have a child with an ADHD student, they don't give the teacher the option or the ability to discipline. The next thing you know, your child's being sent to the psychologist. Not even a student counselor. You're getting a phone call from the teacher psychologist saying, well, how should I deal with your child? I'm not in the classroom, but they want me to discipline the child. So this is extending far and reaching much further than just the education of the child. It's now pulling into the family.
Well, with Common Core,
I've gotten 3 phone calls in 3 years.
And yet our government more and more is telling us how we are not allowed.
The government is trying to make the parents look like the bad guys, and government is the good guys. That's what they're trying to do through Common Core.
and what's bad about it also, the teachers are gonna rate out of the same page, every child in the classroom, same grade throughout the state. And if they can't keep up, they're gonna kick that child out and put them in a special education class. You gotta keep up.
The
That's
Parcc-
Common Core.
The Parcc testing is also relating to how well, if the kids do bad, it's going to be graded against
And
the
teachers.
teachers. The teacher's going to be evaluated based upon the scores of the kids. Christie lowered that to like 10%, next year 20%, the next year 30%, where they will eventually be evaluated more of the teachers. That's going to be a transitional period.
Well, Joe, I think we could talk about this.
Yes, forever.
So maybe you can get a meeting going that we can devote the whole time to Common Core.
Yes,
I think, yeah, yeah.
Well, you have a couple of meetings this month coming up. We got one for school choice, and Dr. Duke Presser is coming back to New Jersey to give a lecture also this month.
TNEC, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I could post stuff on.
Steve, did you need some, no? Okay. Now, I'm sorry, ma'am? You want the mic?
Just for 2 minutes.
And I just wanted to say one more thing about the Second Amendment. Our own Magnum PI just turned 70. Tom Selleck, Second Amendment. Yeah, remember that?
Good evening. This is my first meeting with Tea Party, but I'm Peggy Peterson, and I'm here with Grace Mangan, and we're from St. Dominic's in Brick Township. As I said, I am a teacher, and I spent many years here. I've taught in Jackson and St. Dominic's School, first grade, and some other issues. But I've been the principal of an American school overseas in the Dominican Republic during the 1980s. I had President Gerald Ford on my board of directors, and he was superb, he was excellent. In coming back to the United States, I taught 1 year, and this country cost me my profession because I will not have anything to do with it. It was a losing battle from day one. I was teaching in a public school not too far down the road, and my children in the Dominican Republic, out in the hills of mixed denominations, mixed religions, had not one disciplinary problem in all the years that I was there from any of them. By the time my students were hitting the 4th grade, or reaching the 4th grade, they were bilingual in English and Spanish and starting their 3rd language. I came back here and I was teaching 7th and 8th grade, supposedly reading and language arts. They could care less, and they couldn't even speak their own language of English correctly, nor did they care if they did. And I thought, who did this to them? They didn't do it to themselves. And I found a very, very political situation in my educational system. So I left that year. The following year, in the Asbury Park Press, on the Sunday paper, on the front page, it said, 3 school officials indicted on $3.2 million fraud. That was the school I was teaching at. My classroom had 3 walls. In November, in the faculty room, I said, where's the 4th wall? Surely the United States government gave you enough money for the 4th wall. Do you know every one of those teachers? 60-some teachers never came to the faculty room for the rest of the year. They ate by themselves in their classrooms. And I thought, this is political, this is not educational. They're afraid to open their mouths, they're afraid to speak up. They have to walk that tightrope fence to keep their job. So I think we have a very, very crucial, dire situation on our hands of lack of education. We pour billions and billions of dollars into the educational system every year, and these children are going nowhere. Yeah. So I'm all for it. Common Core is another thing that I have, an issue with. I said, where were the superintendents of the schools? Where were the boards of education? Where were the principals, the vice principals, the guidance counselors, the faculty, the parents? Where was everybody's input into this to go with one particular program? And who designed it? That's a secret. I can't seem to find out who put this together. And if you go in, my nephew asked me if I would come down. His children are in Little Egg Harbor for the conferences, so I did. And we were sitting there with the teacher, a young man, very dedicated, but he didn't have a clue that, until I said to him, and I saw the expression on his face. Afterwards, the conference was over, and I said, may I see one of your books? And across this great big social studies book, it said Common Core. And I said, the truck just backed up, put the books in the school and said, this is what you're going to teach. I said, did you have any input into this? And he just stared at me. He was about 24 years old, maybe in his 3rd year of teaching. And he just looked at me and I said, how about the superintendents? Did the Board of Education? And I looked And he looked at me and he never answered me. And I said, well, if they didn't, that's socialism. And at that point, he actually did go a little white. And he was surprised, you know, that he never thought of it in that aspect. And that's where our teachers of today, who were educated in college in the 90s and into this century, they haven't been educated to make evaluations. They're very robot, they'll just take, well, here's what we want you to do, here's what we want you to teach, and it's okay, and off they go. So we do really have an issue here, so I'm glad to see that you did hit on Common Core. It's a real sore spot with me.
One question, where's the teachers union in all of this?
Yeah, teachers.
If all the teachers are
Where
worried
is
about losing
everybody?
their job, where's the teachers?
Where is everybody?
Great, we're good. Joe, you got a project going. You got to do a whole Common Core month.
Yeah,
Oh,
we do.
okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Awesome. Robert, again, thank you. You were very inspiring. Dwight and Nick, are they still with us? Thank you. Thank you to all. Dom's not here, so who wants to get up and lead us in the God Bless America? Robert, you want to? Robert. Remember, try to bring guests. I know it's cold. Thank you, Dorothy. I know it's cold and I know it's February, March. Bring some guests. Everybody rise, please.
Everybody up. Are we ready? Here we go.
God bless America.